Hello everybody, it's Daniel here, bringing you a Team Fortress 2 gameplay commentary, once again. So I was doing one of my contracts on Snowplow recently, and my mind sort of wandered back to the reason why it was cancelled and not released with the end of the line update. And the reason for that was, and it was really questioned even then, was that the map was deemed too confusing for new players. And really, if you look at Snowplow, it is a 5-minute attack-defense map. It's just on a set timer, and you don't really gain any additional time for capturing each point. You only gain a couple of seconds, depending on how long's left on the clock till the train is hit by the next fridge or thing of concrete, because that's what we do in TF2. But yeah, it's just a much shorter duration for an attack-defense map. It's really, the train is 100% hell. Every 30 seconds, it's going to lose 10%. That's 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes. That's all the map lasts for, really. And there's nothing really confusing about it when you break it down like that. It is sort of just like a variant of existing map types, though. And it's not the same as, say, in a standard attack-defense map, just because you made that slight change to the timer there. And the funny thing about it is that there's a very notable variant of map that you can look at alongside Snowplow in the very update where it was released, and that is Powerhouse, which isn't a typical capture point map because you only have 3 control points in it. And just from playing a lot of gunmetal, I've really enjoyed Powerhouse. It's a really fun map to play on. But interestingly, there is another map that does exist in Team Fortress 2, one that has gone 1 control point shorter, that we've all sort of forgotten actually exists. And funnily enough, it looks a lot like Powerhouse. Hydro. That is classified as a territorial control map, just based on the way that it selects 1 from 6 maps. But we never really play Hydro, you never really see Hydro, and to be honest, we've probably forgotten that Hydro exists. This may be the first time you've heard it mentioned in an awfully long time. So it seems that sometimes when we have these map variants, they work really well, or we kind of just forget about them, and it kind of creates an interesting scenario where, well, we sort of claim that it's more new is always better, and it's what we're always looking for in games. But if you kind of look at TF2, whenever it tries these sort of kind of new types of game modes, they've never really taken off. And there's a lot of examples of this, where you have sort of a new game mode sort of announced, but we all kind of play it for a while just because, oh hey, it's something new, but we don't continue to play it. And really, the beta maps are the best example that you can find of this, because we have 2 whole game modes in there that, again, we forget even exist. And those are Manpower Mode and Robot Destruction. Of those, Manpower Mode might be one that you actually remember. You might just remember that time when there was grappling hooks everywhere over Christmas, and it was really, really weird. It's like someone installed a custom mod in TF2, and it was just everywhere. But Robot Destruction you probably never heard of in quite a while. That's the one where you're on an asteroid on the moon, and you're heading into the other team's base to destroy robots and capture a briefcase, which also has a point value assigned to it, and bring it back to your base to capture and gain points. And when you think about these two, these are the big game modes that Valve has released in recent years, and it's partially their fault that actually they haven't taken off in any form. And I say that because I'm still of the opinion that if they had waited until they were finished and not released them as beta, there would definitely be more interest in them as game modes, particularly Manpower Mode, because I do think that has a lot of potential, but when it was released, it just looked like a weird custom mod that was slapped onto the game. And we kind of just lost interest in it because oh, this doesn't look finished, I'd rather play normal TF2. Now it's in a state where it's actually quite polished, but no one cares anymore because it's still not finished. And eventually we're going to probably see an update where the big detail of it might be, it's oh hey, Manpower Mode's added to the game, and we're going to feel almost cheated of an update because no, it's kind of been there a while, you're just kind of branding it now. And it's the same thing that you can say about Robot Destruction, where it is sort of this interesting variant, but we don't really have any interest in it. And again, that's partially Valve's fault, just for the way that these things were developed. As these 2 things stand, though, these are kind of once-off things that we may not see much more of in future. Manpower Mode has seen a couple of extra maps, but again, it's been so on and off with development that at this stage, I don't know if it's ever going to be finished. Compare it to Cactus Canyon, which is a payload map that's been in beta for a year. And bear in mind the amount of the updates they've released since then. Bear in mind I made Powerhouse since then. And I don't have much hope for the beta maps. I really don't. Someone's just going to glance at them in a year or two and maybe they'll get finished. But There's these sort of like weird variant maps that crop up every now and then, and they don't seem to be fully developed into actual things. Like, they are just once-off maps. But I'm glad they're still there, because they are these cool and interesting things. But at the same time, again, we don't really seem to play them that much. So this sort of sends a weird message when it comes to these variant kind of maps. And I think this was partly what was being considered for Snowplow, was that it was this sort of like weird variant map, and there's sort of a fear that we might just lose interest in it because of that. Because there's this weird thing going on with trains. But in reality, it's quite a simple map. There's not much to it. Like, it is just an attack defense map. Like, personally, I don't think you even need the percentage that kind of increase. Well, I don't think you need the train health or anything like that. Like, I think you can just run the animation and just have the train struck every now and then when it's at the control points. But honestly, just keep it as a 6-minute attack defense map and just let people go for it. I don't think you need the constant countdowns from 30 seconds. I think it's unnecessary for the map. I think it's only natural that we want new things in games, but we also want new things that are good in games. Like, we want interest in variants, and variants that we actually wanted to play. And like Powerhouse and Snowplow, I think, are actually really good examples of that, because they're just slight tweaks on the existing formula, but they're still very true to that formula. And because of that, like, they're fun to play, because, like, yes, it's just like a slight variant. Like, okay, it's just interesting now. Like, you've still given us what we want, but it's still something new simultaneously. And again, you can compare this to a lot of things. Like, you can compare it to manpower mode, you can compare it to robot destruction, you can compare it to special delivery as well, where that's just sort of like, here's like a brand new game mode, here's something new for you to play. No one really cares because it's special delivery and it's just not that fun. The other game modes are just a bit more fun. So maybe just go back to those other game modes and give us something relating to those rather than special delivery, for instance. And there is sort of like a weird message that goes on in TF2, where wherever we have these weird variants of maps, these interesting new ideas, we kind of just ridicule them and we just write them off and we stop playing them. And personally, I think that sort of sends the wrong message, because what we want is cool variants. Variants that we actually want to play. Not just these weird things that feel sort of gimmicky and just once off and will occasionally kind of like hop onto every now and then if we're just having a drink with friends. Like, Deeker Keep is another one of those where, like, medieval mode is cool, but we're not going to play medieval mode for long. And the Halloween maps as well send that message, where you have freaking bonus stocks and you have a spell system, but we're not going to want to play that for long. It's just kind of like a cool little gimmick that's been slapped on. But it sends, like, sort of the wrong message when it comes to these variants. And again, I think Snowplow and Powerhouse do it really well, because here's just slight variants that are very, very cool in the game. And these are probably the least confusing when it comes to new players, because if you want to compare it, if you want to start talking about the other ones, you want to talk about how Deeker Keep operates, that's very confusing to new players. It's like, at a glance, it's listed as an attack defense map, but you're restricted to medieval weaponry. You have to capture 2 points to have a minute opportunity to capture the last point, and if you fail to do that, you have to capture the initial 2 points again. Did we mention as well you can use the Huntsman, and it's not only restricted to melee weapons? That's quite confusing, and a new player may not grasp all that when they load up to see an attack defense map. So I just thought I'd talk about this today, because there does seem to be a way where if we try something different with TF2 that doesn't fit the typical game types, we sort of just write it off as just some gimmick. But as it stands, we actually I think we really do enjoy these things. Like, people are really loving Powerhouse, like, there's a lot of praise for it. And simultaneously, I can see it for Snowplow as well. And it's just the right kind of variant, where it is the existing formula, but it's changed in a way that makes it fun and interesting. And it's not just something like brand new concept idea that you've slapped on us and expect us to play, as is some of the other game modes that we've seen that haven't really taken off. And I just kind of wanted to talk about it, so we have the right message getting across. And it's like, yes, we want cool map variants. They gotta be variants, though. They've gotta be cool and interesting. On top of that, there's nothing wrong with new ideas, but they have to be new ideas that actually interest us. Things that we want to play. They can't just be new for the sake of being new. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you at something new soon. Goodbye, and thank you so much for watching.